There's so many ways to be creative and there's so many ways to be humorous. I mean, humor is everything from the tiniest smile in the heart all the way to rolling on the floor laughing. And a difficulty that can be reframed is anything from the tiniest irritation all the way to devastation. When the first laugh shows up, that's when we put space around the pain and the heart has hope.
Welcome to Inner Source. I'm Dr. Sandra Dreisbach. Whether you're just beginning to explore your inner landscape or you've been doing this work for years and understand that transformation is a lifelong journey, this is your space. We're diving into real conversations about personal growth, shadow work, and what it actually takes to create lasting change from the inside out. Because the truth, your most powerful healing tool isn't out there somewhere. It's already within you. Let's connect to that inner source together.
The information shared on this podcast, our website, and other platforms may be triggering for some viewers and readers and is for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional medical, legal, or therapeutic advice. While we explore topics related to altered states of consciousness, we do not endorse or encourage illegal activities or substance use. Always research your local laws and consult qualified professionals for guidance. The content provided is, as is, and we are not liable for any actions taken based on the information shared. Stay supported and informed, act responsibly, and enjoy the podcast.
Well, today I have a wonderful, amazing conversation for you all with Barbara Ann Michaels, also known as the Jester of the Piece. She'll be talking about a bit about that background of like, why is she the Jester of the Piece? And she is a performance artist and an interfaith minister who uses humor for humanitarian purposes and for healing, as you'll see in this episode. She founded Humorville, which is an immersive pop-up town for humor and wellness. And you'll be able to hear a bit about that. You'll get a sample of Humorville. You'll get to hear about me becoming in relationship to play, and I'll let you find that out. But she works not just in corporate and conference and cultural community, but across divides, but helps people when they're facing a loneliness or uncertainty. A lot of her projects have shared wellness, given relief and joy, helping people to move forward through inspiration and collaboration. And I hope you'll get a sense of that literally live through my experience with her in just this small little episode of our little visit and taste of Humorville and Barbara Ann Michaels. So enjoy. Bring your joy and bring a bit of play to this episode. Well, you all are in for a treat today. We have already been laughing. And this is Barbara Ann Michaels, also known as
A Jester of the Piece.
Yes. And maybe we were overdue for extra humor. But regardless, since we do talk about inner journeys of transformation and healing, when I met Barbara, I couldn't help but wanted to have her on the show to talk about her work and her as a person. Barbara, maybe you can start off by just saying a little bit about yourself. Like, what do you mean by Jester of the Piece? What is a Jester of the Piece? Who are you? What do you do?
What do you mean? What do I mean? Jester of the Piece is a name that I got. It was given to me, actually, or suggested to me when I was a wedding officiant. And I was a wedding officiant in New York City for 10 years. I officiated over 500 weddings. And I was serving the population of people who need to express their creativity to feel authentic. So there are some people who need their tradition or it's just not going to feel real. And there's other people where if they don't make up a ceremony element or redraw what wedding is supposed to be or express themselves in a significant way, it's just not going to feel real. And that population of people didn't really have an ambassador full on until I started serving people who are just like me, because I definitely would fall in that category. And my very dear friend, Michael Coran, said to me, well, you're a clown, because I have a background in clown theater, and you're ministering, because I was performing weddings. He said, you should be the Jester of the Piece. And I said, yes, I should do that. I should. And one of the funny things is when I first started being the Jester of the Piece, some parts of the wedding industry were very embracing of that. because it is or was a kind of underserved population in an industry that is very significant and has a lot of structure in it. And then other people in the industry got question marks and eyebrow raises and a little, fluffy. And we're like, you can't call yourself the Jester of the Peace. That is not a serious designation. We are a very serious industry. This is about people's life cycle ceremonies. We must be reverent. And I just had to not listen to any of that while still loving the people, because you have to keep loving the people even if you disagree with them, and make a space for what was necessary in that industry, which was something I would also say is necessary in every day, which is expressing ourselves to feel authentic. And it ended up being phenomenal. It's just an absolutely phenomenal thing to do. I also had the grace and honor of officiating some of the first same-sex marriages in New York State, along with other
Yay.
officiants who
Extra
were,
claps.
along with other officiants who just happened to be in the right place at the right time, like myself. And I got to stand for love and creativity, not only at the same time, but as exactly the same thing. Because to me, humor and art and love are all the same, 3 words for the same thing. Even though it's 3 facets of the same thing, they all mean the same thing to me. Humor is art is love is humor is art is love.
I love that. And it does bring me joy, and it is a true artistic expression. So I resonate with that. And also, I mean, I don't talk about much, but I have done multiple ceremonies for people, including a same-sex ceremony, which was very exciting for me. I'm like, yay, I get to be a part of that. Um, but I appreciate the fact that you're giving a space for people to create their own ceremony, to find that inner alignment of expression to them, and when they're literally coming together as a couple, or however they identify, um, and express that creatively, and be a place of joy and ministering, that expression of love and humor, through that. I really do.
Yeah, I will give you an adorable example, and adorable is totally the wrong word, even though it's
No, I
also
don't know. Maybe it's the right
perfectly
word.
fine. It is adorable, and it also it's touching, and it's funny, but it's real. And so I had these 2 people, and they were having a ceremony, but they both were, it wasn't quite that they were shy, they just had things they wanted to express to each other privately, except you're having a wedding in front of other people. And so what we ended up doing is, because they both had a foodie sense, they went to each one of them went independently to a friend's house and created one morsel of food that represented the other person as a flavor.
Oh, I love
Right?
that.
I mean,
Oh my
already
gosh. I don't know, like, if I was in a relationship, what would my partner represent me as a flavor? I
it was just so joyful. Yeah, is it sweet? Is it salty? It's just beautiful. And then and those went in a tiny box that had some writing at the top of the box. You open the box, you read the note, you eat the thing, you feel tremendously loved by your partner. Everyone's witnessing that. And because 80% of communication is nonverbal, everyone witnessing that, even though it's nonverbal, is receiving so much love and so much specificity. And I really existed when I was a full-time wedding officiant. I really felt like I was creating art with all of my clients, which is probably why I did it for so long. And I also thought I was going to do it forever. And I was very surprised to find out that I wasn't going to do it forever, because I love to help people celebrate themselves, to have people feel self-expressed, to use creativity to do that, to have people feel celebrated in their community, to have people feel loved personally. To use all of the arts for well-being. I mean, it's a perfect fit in a way, except that it was a chapter, which surprised me greatly. But then the fact that I was doing it all also surprised me greatly, because one summer, 2 friends of mine, one in California and one in Maine, said, "Hey, Barbara, can you officiate our weddings?" And I said, "Sure, what?" Because it's a tremendous honor, but I didn't intend to do that. And I also didn't intend to do a lot of things in my life. And some things I did intend, and a bunch of things that have turned out to be really important to me, I didn't intend at all. And maybe that's true for everybody.
I love that you're speaking to that because I feel like that's something that I've been trying to share as I share pieces of my journey on this podcast and other places is the fact that, we when we're on this life journey, when we're connecting within and we're finding that path, whether you call it, the golden egg project of your life or not, there are phases and like, well, that was a beautiful phase. It was perfect as it was. There wasn't something imperfect about it. But I felt whole and complete, and I was ready for another chapter. And I didn't think this chapter was going to end, but it did. It changed. I changed, and we grew. So it makes me think not just about that part of your journey, but what did you grow into? So you're still a jester, right? You still call yourself a jester of the piece, but what kind of a jester are you now?
Yeah, so I kept Jester of the Piece because it means humor for humanity. And for many, many years, I'm such a multi-passionate person, and I have a lot of creative interests. I have visual arts interests, movement-based interests, writing interests, psychology interests, the human condition, quantum life. I mean, I'm spirituality, the weather, serendipity, they're really good stuff. All of that good stuff.
It's all
And
great.
so I'm
I'm
into
with
all
you.
of that.
I'm with you.
I
I'm
know, I
not going to
didn't say a
argue
single
against
thing
that
that
at
where you
all.
weren't like, "Yes, more of that. Let's have more." So because of that, I would have so many ideas, and I'm also a really big ideator. I have ideas all the time. And so it would be like, but if I work on this, that will get left out in the dust, or that's going to miss me if I do this one. And how do I can't choose. And so that created a certain amount of frustration or stagnation or just non-choosing, which ends up being a choice. If you don't choose, choices get made anyway. And I felt a lot of frustration about that until I was in one particular mentorship. And my mentor, a really good mentor, helps us see where we're not looking. And this particular mentor, I don't remember exactly how it occurred, but one day I realized that humor and wellness was the through line of my life so far. And I used to say humor and wellness is the through line of my life. However, since we're having a conversation about change and the unexpected, I'm going to update that and say that humor and wellness is the through line of my life so far. And if we get to this end of this podcast and I have a new one, I'll be okay with that because that would be what happened next. But even if I think something is a work of my life, like I did with wedding officiating, it was the work of part of my life. And is humor and wellness my whole life? It's very, very, very important to me because humor helps release stuck energy. It recreates relationships. It brings forgiveness. I mean, humor can also be used to hurt people, but this is the difference between laughing at people, which is naturally divisive, and laughing with people, which is naturally connective. And I live in New York City where sarcasm runs rampant and could practically be mayor. But sarcasm already has enough attention. And I think sarcasm is super fun. It's very edgy and sassy and eclectic, and you can do a lot with it. However, there's some things you can't do with it. And those are some of the things done by kind-hearted sweetie pie humor. And I used to be like, but I'm such a sweetie pie. What am I going to do with my sweetie pie humor? Like, do I have to be nice all the time with my sweetie pie humor? But what I've come to understand is that it's way edgier to be vulnerable than it is to be angry. Because underneath the anger is vulnerability. And so when you go deeper, you get to vulnerability. And so I'm actually an edgier artist because I focus on vulnerability and kindness and softness because hard edges go up first. And it took me a while to realize that.
I think there's such depth of truth to what you're saying right now in this moment. Like, I wanna almost take a pause right here just to take that
Yeah,
in,
let's do it.
right? Because I think I'm pausing.
Me
No,
too.
but
Let's pause together.
okay, let's pause.
My
I
pause
also
had
wanna put up
laughter
my
in it.
hand as cat pause now. Kind of pause.
I grew up with cats. It's okay. Is that pause with pause in it? See, this is what
Well,
happens. You have a creative mind, and it just goes and goes and goes. And in a way, there's just not enough space for the ridiculous in modern life.
I agree, and maybe this particular episode and this conversation with us is helpful to maybe bring some of that back. And
Yeah.
but I can't let us go too far without you talking about the space that you're in right now. Tell us
Yes.
about this experience, and I don't want to say too much so that you can tell the story. Tell us about what experience you've created for people and co-created with people in your space right there.
Welcome to Humorville. Humorville is the tourist attraction for your heart. It's in one room, which is a little over 200 square feet, which is not a big room. However, you can have a big experience in a small room. Humorville is a small town, and it's a small town for self-expression and community. You come in, and you get a passport to something you want more of in your life. What is something you want more of in your life today? That is a question for you.
I mean, I would have said humor and joy, but you're already serving it, so like
Well,
I
we
already
can
got,
go with
but
humor
we'll
and
make
joy.
it humor and joy and play.
Yeah.
Play. How
So
about
you
play?
play. Yeah. So you get a passport to play.
I want a passport to play, please.
And then as we go around town, and this is it's an interactive participatory experience for up to 8 people. It's very intimate. And as you go around engaging in the different metaphors of a town, which I didn't expect to create, which we'll go back to in a minute. When you get to the marriage bureau, you marry play. And when you get to the post office, play writes you a letter. And when you go to the voting booth, you vote yourself president of play. And there's a telephone company and there's a library where you tell stories from your life about play that were hard then that are funny now. And one of the humorous things about this is that I did not intend to create a village. These concepts, these civic engagement concepts, I didn't even realize they were civically engaged for over 10 years. When I was a wedding officiant, I started marrying people to themselves in the street because I have a background in street theater, clown theater, improvisation, the festival arts, stilt walking. I have a variety arts background. So I found myself not sitting and thinking, what do I want to do? Just being like, go outside and marry people to themselves. Okay. So there's no ceremony for best friends. And there's no ceremony for the person who introduced you to the person who changed your life. And there's no ceremony for the person at work who brings out the best in you or who helps you stand up when you feel like you want to fall down. Like there's no acknowledgement. And those are really important life relationships that there's no public recognition for. I mean, maybe there's Friends Day on the calendar, but it's not widely celebrated if so. I mean, birthdays sort of. So I started doing that. And then the next year, it was an election year. So I started going out voting people president of what they care about in the street in Times Square and Central Park here in New York City. And then I got a grant for that one and toured it around to 7 cities, voting for people in New Orleans and Miami and Chicago and Philly and some other places, voting people president. So what do you want to be president of if you be president of anything? Well, president of free food for children, president of naps, president of dolls, and president of thinly sliced Nova, and president of peace, and innumerable parents saying, I am president of my own household. Thank you very much. I have noticed that if with these projects, if people need a serious moment, they're going to say something serious. And if they need playfulness, they're going to say something playful. And the projects all meet people emotionally wherever they are. So and then there was a post office that arose, and then there was a library that happened. And then one day, which is a day I do not recall, I realized that a village had arrived. And I thought, well, if a village has arrived, a village should be in a place. And so then I started talking about having a place. But it was just like, well, what if I did a house takeover, a hotel takeover, or a strip mall takeover, or something? But it didn't occur to me that it could be all in one room. And it may one day be in many rooms. And there may be many Humorvilles one day, I would love that, a little community center for humor and wellness all over the place. So now Humorville is in one room, and it is transformational here because it's so joyful. And I call it a tourist attraction and not an immersive art installation, even though it is an immersive art installation. Don't tell anyone.
Well, if you ask me, it's more than even both of those things. To me, it's a healing journey. It's a transformation journey. And it's even like a sort of even a golden shadow journey, right? If they want, like for me, if I'm saying I want a passport to play, that says in some sense that I don't feel like I'm getting enough play in my life. And if I go on a journey,
Yes.
in Humorville for play, then I'm literally creating more play in my life by marrying it, by being the president of it, by having a message from play and on all these sort of things, and it creates that you start with that passport commitment, right? Just like setting an intention for other journeys, and then you're literally giving them a process and an experience of that, and that and they literally create it in that small space and in a community setting. And maybe you could talk a little bit more about the structure of the experience, because it's you do improv theater. There's a sense of play. Like, I know people can't have the experience right now in this moment, but what's the journey like for that small group of 8 people? How do you set it up so that they have that unique experience, but also have that sense of community?
We actually could experience one part of it. I could either marry you to play or vote you president of play, whichever one you like
Oh
better.
my gosh, okay. Well, see, I think if I was gonna be president, I'd be president of love. So, like, but if I'm
You
gonna
be
be
president of
but
love.
we did do the passport to play, but we can marry me to play. I'm okay being married to play. Play and I can
Okay.
get married.
Okay. So, welcome to your welcome to your ceremony. So, when there's 8 people here, I'm the jester of the piece helping everybody. I'm not facilitating the experiences. I call everyone citizens of Humorville because you become a citizen of Humorville when you get your Humorville passport. So the citizens officiate for each other, and I'm running around helping everybody all the time to do that. So it's empowering to stand for other people's aspirations. That's another aspect of it. So for you, with your and right behind me, there's a series of pink flowers that have very pretty lights in them, and surrounded by some white fabric, and that is actually the Marriage Bureau of Humorville. And if you're listening to this on audio, you can imagine flowers that go all the way up the wall, 10 feet, that are pink and little white twinkly lights and prettiness. Uh, and before we do this, I'm just to contextualize it a little bit more. Some artists lead with edginess in order to help people release into play, and I lead with playfulness and safety and kindness so that people will say deep things and still be uplifted. So it's 2 paths to the same thing. I just happen to be one who uses the playful fun path of change and transformation. So, when did you and play first meet?
When did we first meet? I probably was a baby when we met.
What happened then?
Probably Play-Doh and finger paints. And playing with my brother who was younger whenever he came around. But Play-Doh and paints are the first things that come to mind when I think about young, early play. And actually, allegedly, my mom would make me Play-Doh, homemade Play-Doh, and I don't know whether it was in part inspired by the fact that I would eat it or whether she also liked the fact that she made the Play-Doh. But I can't speak to that cause, but I do know that I did like the salty flavor of the Play-Doh.
I understand.
But
I remember. You say Play-Doh, and I taste saltiness. It's a memory that no one can
yeah,
ever let go if you've had it. So, that's how you and play first met. So, what do you rely on about play?
that there's no judgment in play.
Yeah, when you're free. Yeah, because you're either playing or you're judging. It's like painting. You can't paint the painting and analyze the painting at the same time. They're 2 different
Right.
processes. Yeah. And because paradoxically, you're never gonna change, which is what you rely on about play, and then paradoxically, you're also gonna change constantly all the time. And so the next question is, what have you learned from play? What has play taught you?
Play has taught me creative expression and acceptance and freedom and joy.
Yeah. And so what's your dream for the future with play?
Well, to keep it.
Well, this is a commitment ceremony, so I think that you're doing pretty well.
No, but I mean, like, I think there's sometimes a sense that as we age or as we get older, that we're not allowed to play. And I definitely have had an intention to keep play as a part of my life, as well as humor and joy and freedom and authenticity and vulnerability and love. And to me, they really are intertwined, just like you were sharing earlier. And and so, eh, at this time, I realized like, oh, maybe I haven't been playing enough. I'm planning on nurturing play more and making sure that play has a strong, consistent role in my life.
Oh, then this is a good time to make your vow. So
It's a good
say
time to make
play.
a commitment. I'm ready to make a
Yeah.
commitment.
So say play, I vow, and say your vow, whatever your vow turns out to be.
Okay. Okay, play. I vow to play with you for the rest of my life because your beauty and joy and love make me more of me and more for everyone and help me to create the impact I want in my life and in the lives of others. Thank you.
And so, by the power vested in me, by the power vested in you, by play, which is part of the very fabric of life and is naturally altruistic and brings clarity and energy and peace simultaneously to ourselves and others, I hereby pronounce you and play in lifelong, lasting love. You may hug and kiss yourself.
Yay! Actually, you know what I want to do? I want to do the Muppet thing. Yay!
That would make sense since you married play. So that's what it feels like to marry play in the marriage bureau. And
Excellent.
it is both playful and serious because you said some really serious things, but you also have an abiding sense of joy and it's also fun. And so I am a serious artist. I just want people to give their gifts to humanity while they're still alive. And I happen to use play as a strategy to do that because I myself it's faster and I know I'm not alone. So for anybody else for whom play gets us there faster, we need to be able to find each other and do that together because it's a community activity. And so that we also have you'd become president of play and also love, which I would say might mean the same thing in sometimes. And then it would be stories about play that were hard then that are funny now, and on and on. And then when play writes you a letter, then you get the letter in the mail within a couple of months
Oh, I love it. I
in
love
the
it.
real post office.
And thank you. Yeah, and you already brought more play into my day. I love everything about the idea of Humorville, and I think even that note you mentioned about seriousness, I'll bring in a tone into our conversation. You know, at a time in the world where we see a lot of challenging things arising, where the seriousness of what is happening in the world creates not just a heaviness and a seriousness, and it's not to belabor the significance of it, but we really do need to empower different ways of supporting ourselves and ways of addressing it. And I think sometimes we think the only way is to be more serious, is to see the weightiness and to, and I'm definitely an advocate. I definitely have been out there and I've definitely, have protested before and things like that. And I'm not saying anyone can have any particular political whatever thing that they want. But what I love about the message that you're already bringing to the table here at the times that we are in is that there are other ways that we can advocate and create peace, joy, love, and support for one another.
Yes. Humor helps release stuck energy, and anger creates stuck energy. I'm not saying anger is bad. Anger is really important. I love that quote, anger is the energy of spring. And how angry does the seed have to be like, the heck with you, dirt, I'm coming through. I mean, there's like a tremendous amount of energy that goes along with that, right? Uh, uh,
Well, we are in
and
spring right now,
we are, it's
it's a
spring.
creative force. There
It's
has to
very
be
much so.
a sense of dissatisfaction, but also a willingness and a hope for satisfaction and greater creation,
Yeah.
greater
Yep.
movement, a movement forward.
Yes. And so the impetus to use humor to have hard conversations, we might have to remind ourselves of it, but if we practice it, there's a reason why some people get news from comedy shows in the moment that we're living in, in all dimensions of political belief, actually. And it's because sometimes things are
Yeah, I'm
hard to see,
definitely
but
one of them.
if you put some humor on it, then it's easier to look at it. And to the degree that things happen in the past energy gets stuck if it didn't go as expected or went wrong or hurt. Everything that hurts wants to heal. And when laughter shows up with the situation, which is different than using humor as a deflection to avoid the situation, which I have invented a word for, which is called communicating, which is communicating using comedy to
Communicating?
yes, communicating. Communicating is using comedy to avoid the situation entirely, which is not what we're talking about. We're talking about the beautiful beam of laughter to start to unravel stuck energy. Even if the first laugh is so tiny, it could just be like. And I would also say that what I'm speaking about using humor for healing, it's not for the person in their deepest pain most of the time. It's as soon as any iota of the person, any cell of the person reaches for hope for the first time, then laughter can be with the light that comes in. And not all of our stories from our lives will find humor in our lifetime. I know that. And it's called too soon in the comedy industry, too soon. And some things are too soon forever. Some things are too soon for generations. An example I very often give of this is that war is terrible all the time for everyone. Even if people have an idea that there's a noble purpose happening, and there can be a noble purpose happening, it's still terrible that it even has to exist. And so given that that's the case and it's so terrible, how could we ever make a joke about it? And how many movies are there about war that are funny? How many television shows about encampments of soldiers? MASH is a really good one from when I was growing up. And there's comedy shows, there's comedy stories, there's people telling funny stories about war. How could that possibly exist? It possibly exists because everything that hurts wants to heal, and humor is the harbinger of healing. So when the laughter shows up, when the positive humor shows up, we know for sure that healing is happening. It's not something that we walk with on a daily basis. I didn't invent it. It's part of the human condition for all of human time. And no matter how much technology we have, this is never going to change because this is how the human heart works. And as we remember together that humor is for healing, then we can stop saying, I'm not funny, I'm not a comedian. As if the only allowable use of humor in our lives is
Just like
being a
we
paid
say we're not an
professional.
artist, right?
Yeah, like I'm not creative, I can't draw. Like, okay, maybe you can, but if you could probably draw better if we practiced it, but maybe that's not important to someone. But there's so many ways to be creative and there's so many ways to be humorous. I mean, humor is everything from the tiniest smile in the heart all the way to rolling on the floor laughing. And a difficulty that can be reframed is anything from the tiniest irritation all the way to devastation. All of it can find, I call it the first laugh. When the first laugh shows up, that's when we put space around the pain and the heart has hope, which is why I said earlier that if any ounce of energy in a human being is looking for hope, humor can bring it.
Well, and I love that you're bringing up very clearly, and I hope we bring across in this conversation for others, is that usually when people look for healing, they don't go like, well, maybe I need to add more humor. That's not usually the first go-to, like, oh, maybe I need to go talk to my therapist. And I'm not against therapy, right, everyone, right? But like, we don't look for sources of joy, sources of humor as ways of creating that healing and support in relationship as part of our journey. And I love that not only that you provide that experience of connecting to these parts of ourselves that will bring us, literally connect us into Humorville and be citizens of Humorville. Like you official representative, official citizen, official passport to play or otherwise, show that it's literally in practice, it is healing and uplifting humor as a healing tool. I mean, the same wartime that you mentioned, I think I've also noticed at least observationally, a pattern of more humor arising because the need is greater for healing. And I don't think the healing community in general, I feel like could recognize more the importance and role and significance of humor as a part of that journey. That's one of the tools or possibilities that we can create. And yeah, maybe not at the beginning, but even knowing that that could be part of like that little spark of hope. Okay, this is maybe the space for it. Maybe they can't laugh at this, but they'll be in a space eventually where they can find the joy.
And as soon as someone can genuinely, these are some of the physical metrics on this. If someone tells a story from their life that was hard then that's funny now, and the story clearly brings them energy, their face brightens, they might laugh or smile, you can see that they're relaxed, they're breathing more. If those things are happening and the person is genuine, because the original thing usually isn't funny, but something along the journey has found humor, even if the original thing it's not necessarily there. But if any aspect of the journey finds humor, when someone's telling it, you can feel it. And if they genuinely feel better when they are telling this tale, that's when their story can help another person find hope. And it doesn't even have to be about the same thing. This is one of the most connective. I have found that people can full on disagree with each other about almost everything in life. But if someone is laughing with their journey, it's like, wait. You can find humor with your house fire? Well, if you can find humor with that, maybe I can talk to my sister. Or what? It's like, wait, you can laugh at the part of your life, but will you tell that story again? Really? It cuts through everything because laughter predates language, and we laugh before we talk, and we all laugh the same way. And laughter doesn't have a language. It's a catharsis, and one of the ways that we know that is when you laugh. The deepest laugh is until you cry. I laughed until I cried, but then crying also resolves in laughter. I cried and cried and cried and cried, and then and when you've cried your last cry, laughter shows up. And when you've laughed your biggest laugh, tears show up. It's actually one energy. It's one cathartic release of energy. It's all one caboodle.
No, I really resonate with that because, like, sometimes I'll even say to people, like, "Well, it's either laugh or cry," and I'd much rather do the laugh. Like, they're given my options, like, I could cry about it. I mean, not that there's a space for crying, everyone, no shaming on crying, but, the release needs to happen. It needs to come out, it needs to be released, and I find so much more not just the release, but also the upliftment by a conscious choice of aligning with laughter and bringing laughter into the room. Or
Yeah.
or 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 even teasing, I mean, not a sarcastic teasing, but, I know sometimes I'll admit that I sometimes will get in trouble because I'll tease someone that may not be ready for teasing.
Too soon. That's exactly. And humor is not infallible. Humor
It is
fails.
not infallible, it is not
No,
infallible, it
sometimes we
can fail.
try and we think we're being kind-hearted, but we're not. And somebody gets hurt. But if we can find humor even in that. Well, I tried to bring humor to the situation. It was too soon. I'm sorry. Maybe in the future. Well, yeah, probably in the future, but not yet. No, not yet. And it's not that it's beautiful in its imperfection that way. You could say like, well, I can either laugh about this or cry about this or cry until I laugh about this. And that would be a true statement.
What I also love about it, though, what you're saying right now, in a lot of healing circles, we talk about, like, rupture and repair. And the idea that some humor could fail, like, just like an improv could fail or, like, some other sort of things, giving that actually, since I'm now, president and married to play, uh, bringing in that factor of humor and play into the conversation like, well, why aren't you pulling in play in there? Why aren't you bringing in humor? Why aren't we finding other ways to connect in ways where we can relate? That may not even be about the subject, right? But can help bridge that gap to help do that repair work after a rupture, or even that natural aspect of, like, sometimes your attempts are going to fail, and being able to laugh at that, will allow you to stand up that 8th time after falling down 7, as the Japanese proverb goes. I love so much of what we've already shared with everyone, but I wanna give you an opportunity to share, like, if people are wanting to connect to Humorville or find the little piece of that, even if they can't come in person to Humorville. Obviously, I haven't come to Humorville in person, but I got a chance to do a passport guest visit and marriage.
I brought Humorville to you. I also do tour. I mean, I all of these projects started off as touring projects, and I have toured them around the planet, and so and continue to do so. So it is possible for Humorville to come to you. If someone is listening right now, sometime today, find another human and swap stories that were hard then that are funny now. It's a great dinner table thing, great strangers on a plane thing, great awkward holiday thing, great standing in line for too long, waiting for something thing, a great ordinary family dinner thing. It's so what it does is it celebrates the other person and their resilience. Because in order to hear about the story that went from hard then to funny now, we have to touch the thing that was hard, and then we have compassion. And then we see the transformation and we see the strength building in how it became funny now. And then we both find humor in it and we can reflect back to the person why it was funny to them. Meanwhile, they've had the constriction in their body of remembering the thing, but then the relief all over again. It's like every time you tell a story from your life that was hard then that's funny now, you heal yourself all over again. Because that's what the laughter and the openness and the breathing, and then everybody's happy and empowered. It's like, well, okay, if you can laugh with almost drowning and waiting 40 years to learn how to swim, which is a friend of mine who's interviewed on my website and telling this exact story. And he would just pretend he would be like, oh, you know what, everybody, we're all going out boating. Everyone's going to go swimming. I'm just going to drive the boat today. That's what I'm in the mood for. I just want to everybody have a good time. He would just do all manner of things that nobody would know he couldn't swim. 40 years later, finally learned how to swim so he could run a triathlon for his 50th birthday. And so to hear that, it's funny for someone to pretend to know how to swim for 40 years and secretly not know how to do that. It's ridiculous and it's funny and we could laugh about it together. But then also the strength it takes to finally face at 50 almost drowning when you're 9, and the visceral in the body, and then deciding you're going to give it to yourself. It's incredibly empowering. What else has someone been holding for 40 years that they haven't done because it stuck and spiraled up? How could hearing his humorous story about that, and his name is Jared, how can hearing Jared's story about that give anybody a little hope of being able to unravel the thing that they're not doing that they want to do because something hurt that time and the energy is still stuck? Because humor can show up and help release it, and hearing other people's stories can show us it's possible. And if we do this as a regular practice, there are more uplifted, stronger, more authentic people all around our lives, including ourselves.
That's beautiful. And speaking of, I'd be bereft if I did not ask you. What has humor meant to you in your life?
Oh, so I am an only child. And when you're an only child, you spend a tremendous amount of time by yourself. And I was also an only child in the 70s when we did not have phones, cell phones, and there was no AI. And so you just spend a lot of time by yourself. And I found that one of the ways that I could reliably create connection in my family and with others, because when you're an only child, you have to learn how to be around other kids too, because it's just you. And I found that I could use humor to create connection inside my house, outside my house, inside my own mind. And it saved the day over and over and over and over again. And someone said to me not long ago, they actually accused me of it or teased me about it and said, well, you just made your coping strategy into a career. And I said, well, yeah, but don't most entrepreneurs do that? Isn't that
Everyone does that.
Doesn't everybody do that? And so humor has equaled love to me. When I imagine my mother and father laughing, it just my whole body, I just exhale, and it's so beautiful. And I have such beautiful, grateful memories of laughs that we have shared as the trio. And I mean, there's a small dog now who's like my little dog sister who wears nighties and dresses and stuff. But I mean, I don't know if the dog laughs. I mean, maybe the dog laughs too, or maybe the dog is happy. Part of the reason I went into clowning is that I was able to reframe my fear of failure in an art form that celebrates failure. And it was like, wait, what? I'm failing and everybody still likes it? I mean, not likes it in terms of this is a successful moment of clown theater, but respects me for trying and values me even more for going for it and understands that failure is a really natural part of the journey and is something to enjoy along the way, like that's possible. That is possible. I don't know who I would be if I didn't study clown theater. I just have been able to be so much kinder to myself and find the funny in my own journey. That does not mean that I have not had big ups and downs. I am a human, and all of my artwork is about love. So I have a really big heart that feels things deeply. And I cannot imagine life without turning to humor for restoration. It is, I like to say that anything that brings energy is life, therefore humor is life.
It absolutely does bring energy and beautiful love and joy. And I love this idea of that being a clown allowed you to fail and be celebrated in it. And I think there's a deeper truth in that that we not only connect with our own failure by seeing humor added to a failure experience, but also a lesson to be learned around being more supportive around failure, right? That's
Definitely.
normal, right? You know, and
Yeah.
like if we could all laugh around these sort of challenges, wouldn't it, we'd have a different experience about all of it.
There's this phrase in the business world. I think it's maybe going out of fashion now. It was in fashion for a while. It's called failing forward. And people would be like, yeah, I'm failing forward. Yep, failing forward. Yeah, I'm going to fail. I'm just going to fail forward while pretending that no one will ever see me failing forward. That is something I'll do privately that no one's going to know about because we're just going to fail forward in secret, which is not what failing forward is about. Failing forward is, at least in business lingo, it's this effort to be like, yeah, we took a risk. It didn't work out. We learned stuff. And now, and yet I greatly desire companies to have, when you, on the first day of your job, that people who've been at your job longer than you tell you stories from their own lives about things that were hard then that are funny now, about doing the very job you're about to do. Because it just would give so much, it just gives permission and safety, and then risks can be taken. And with intention, let's take some intentional risks, except for sometimes, and we should just risk things because, uh, I feel like I feel like I need to. I feel like I need to have a caveat under that. It's like, you want to risk things just because, but be intentional about it. I don't want anyone to listen to this podcast and do something bananas, unless it's a really good idea, and with the caveat that we try to take care of ourselves. But it's I recently found myself saying a phrase that I was talking to someone about why I didn't bike in the slush in the winter in New York City, because I'm an avid biker all over the city. I found myself saying, well, you know what? The reason that I don't bike in icy slush in New York City in the winter is that I'm crazy, but I'm not nuts. And I'm like, well, what does that really mean? Like, what does that really mean? It means that I'm a free thinker and I'm really open-minded, but I'm not going to put myself in danger. But
Right,
sometimes we
right.
don't know that something is dangerous until we're trying it, and then some of the things that we don't try aren't dangerous at all. And like, well, that's dangerous. No,
Well,
it's not.
there's a range. There's a range, right? You know where
It's so subjective. It's like it's dangerous to speak on stage. No, it's not. It's not dangerous to speak on stage, but it can feel dangerous. But it's not.
and that's the number one fear over the fear of death, you know?
Right? It is dangerous to bike in the slush, in icy slush in New York City, which is why I don't do it. But I but I am a pretty free thinker. And I do lots of other things, like bike around New York City, because some people would say, you can't bike around New York City, that's dangerous. Like, well, it depends. It depends who you are. And I mean, I think it comes back to that. It's if we could all have two relationships with humor, if we could have our own very personal relationship with humor, that's just me and my humorous energy in my life and the conversations that happen in my heart and mind with whatever I believe is the mystery of life, whatever that is, even if it's nothing. And then can we have a community relationship with humor? Can I have my friends that I turn to help me find the funny? Can I share more freely my stories that were hard then they're funny now? Can I ask other people for their stories that were hard then they're funny now? Can I use positive humor to create community and strength all around me, and for good reason, because life, if we do that, life is not only more fun, but we have more energy to be our more authentic selves.
I think that is the perfect message to end on. Thank you so much, Barbara, for for sharing your humor, your joy, your gesture of peaceness with all of us. I invite you all to check her out, especially if you're in New York City and get a chance. But if she comes on tour or whatever, definitely check her out. But thank you, Barbara, for being on the show.
It's a total pleasure. And it's a real pleasure to be around you, because both of us care so much about the role of play. I mean, you did marry play, but
I did marry
it's like
play. I did. You
we
married
just care
me.
so, yeah, we just care so much about it, and being a voice for it. And I encourage us to keep on taking hands with each other and others, and just like, put a little ha-ha in the hands.
Yes, please be part of my community of humor, if you would.
You betcha.
No pressure. You
betcha.
don't have to decide now. Okay, much love. And thank you again for joining us. Thanks for being here with me today. If this resonated with you, subscribe wherever you listen and share it with someone else on their journey. And if you're ready to go deeper, take the free Inner Source assessment at innersourcepodcast.com. It'll help you discover exactly what kind of inner work you need right now and where to start. Until next time, remember that everything you're searching for is already within you.